ITC, Marico, HUL, Varun Beverages, Bicari that have lots of exposure to Nepal. How does this unrest pan out for the entire consumption space? Because on one hand, you do have that GST boost that has keeping these stocks afloat. But on the other side, something like this, what could the impact be?
Yeah, thanks and good morning. Yes, after the good news of the GST rate cut, which will increase the overall consumption given more disposable income, and a lot of the food category and some of the daily consumption HPC also, there is a cut. We do see that in H2 there will be a benefit for many of the companies. Coming to this specific issue, after this good news, there are two small overhangs. One, of course, is the Nepal issue, and the other is the floods in some parts of the country, especially Punjab and to an extent Rajasthan also. So these will have some minor impact. I don't see a big impact on any of the FMCG companies on a full quarter basis. Yeah, some days impact can be there. So this is a deja vu of what happened in Bangladesh. So we did see that Marico did quite well in Bangladesh in spite of the political uncertainty and some level of violence. But there were companies like Imami which saw a few quarters of weak numbers in Bangladesh. So my sense is some companies will be able to come out with this with less impact. On a company exposure perspective, yes, there are companies like Varun Beverages at around 3% of the business from Nepal. So again, not a big exposure. So some impact for a few days can be there. These are daily consumption. So two ways if this impacts, right? One is because of the political instability, the GDP growth of Nepal could come lower in the near term. And second is because of the violence, the supply chain, we need to see if there is some impact. So these are the two issues which I think will impact a lot of the FMCG company. The good part is for most FMCG company, it is low single digit as a percentage of sales. And Varun Beverages, ITC and Dabur, etc. are also broadly in that 2 to 3% kind of a range. So it's not a big impact, slight minor impact. But summer categories, if you see, we are seeing weak numbers in India also because of very excess rains. So our sense is the aerated beverages, carbonated beverages, and Imami's portfolio of the talcum powder, and to that extent, the beer industry also. So beer industry also is a summer category. These are some of the weak numbers in the near term, and H2 we expect recovery in most of these.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. I was just looking at the prima facie numbers, and Varun Beverages Nepal business is only 3% of its consolidated revenues. But Avnish, the other news, which is the GST rationalization, do you think the exposure to Nepal for most of these staples can actually be offset, but perhaps a little bit of a volume bump up that we may see September end?
Yes, good question. So, for example, the two most benefited categories, in our view, from a GST reduction will be essentially biscuits and snacks. We'll obviously see benefit even in toothpaste and some of the HPC categories. But the good part about biscuits and snacks is almost half of the consumption happens at 5 rupee, 10 rupee price points and maybe even 20 rupee price point. So there what will happen is Britannia, for example, the GST rate drops from 18% to 5%. My sense is large part of this reduction of 13% will be passed to the end customer. There will be some margin expansion because of the operating leverage. So if you see all this, I think Nepal issue gets dropped significantly. Because as I said, it is not like a tariff issue of India-US where the stalemate continues for a long time, right? These are daily consumption, and eventually we'll have a government in place in Nepal. The supply chain issue will get resolved. So you're absolutely right. The GST benefits in H2 will more than make up for the Nepal issue. Plus, if you see, yesterday government gave that clarification that even the printed packaging material, they can use till December using stickers, etc. I think clearly government is also focusing on ease of business, given there will be some transition issues because time is very limited, right? September 22nd. So these are steps which are welcome. We expect more ease of business in terms of either grammage addition or in terms of the MRP cut in the larger pack. So I think government is really making sure that there is no big transition issue. Slight issue will be there for most of the FMCG category, but H2 we should see good numbers for most of the category where the reduction has happened.
Okay, Avnish, sounding optimistic. Lastly, before we let you go, also give us your sense on paints. Today we've seen a note coming in from the House of Nuvama on Berger Paints, wherein you've mentioned that you expect recovery in the second half. Would it be fair to say that you're expecting this across the entire paints segment, or is Berger Paints your preferred bet over here?
Yeah, good question. So we like both Asian Paints and Berger Paint. So we are seeing three things. One, overall industry in the paint, we are seeing growth coming back. If you see in H2 FY25, the overall paint industry saw negative volumes and the impact of the new player was there. Now what we are seeing is the growth coming back. And second is the new player also is now stabilizing. We have seen that in some of the larger packs and some of the packs, the overall promotional intensity seems to be stabilizing, which is good news for the incumbents. So yes, we are expecting both Asian and Berger Paint to report mid to high single-digit volume growth for rest of the year. In Q2, what will happen, because the monsoon has been on higher side except Bihar, we see that some of the exterior paint, the demand will be postponed. So this is not a demand destruction, this is postponement. So yes, we are positive on both Asian and Berger, and we see mid to high single digit kind of volume growth in the H2. Q2, our sense is it will be almost similar to Q1 in terms of volume growth, around 3-4%. It could have been higher, but because of the rains, the postponement of demand has happened.
Okay, Avnish, sounding optimistic, and thanks for that outlook coming in across FMCG and paints. On that note, we'll let you go. Chandan, thanks so much for your time this morning as well. On that note, viewers, we'll slip into a very short break and keep the discussion going about the trade setup when we return.